It's pretty muddy around here. It's mud season. So if anybody wants to take a little walk with me today, we got to go find some sidewalk. Now, there's been a lot of talk about putting data centers in space. And as much as it sounds ridiculous on the surface, if you dig down, maybe not quite so much. But we can't think of this as a cloud problem. We have to think of this as a launch problem. And the more that you dig into it, the more that you realize that SpaceX has potentially a real advantage here, because space does not equal cloud. Space equals launch.
When you hear data centers in space, does it make you laugh, shake your head, or go, yeah, this is actually what's coming, and we're starting to think about the build out for this already?
Well, at first I thought it was bunkers.
Yeah.
And then when you dig in, you actually realize that there are very specific developments that are driving the narrative.
Space compute, well, it only makes sense if building data centers here on Earth gets harder. Much harder. Right now, the constraints are not in the chips, they're really in the power. They're in the grid capacity, they're in finding the right locations and land, they're in the permitting, they're in the carbon limitations. AI is turning compute into a power challenge. And all of this adds up in a way that makes Elon's thinking off-planet maybe not so crazy, given a lot of the limitations that we face here on Earth. In reality, this only happens if Earth gets constrained. The key economic variable, it's not cooling. It's not solar, it's not the price of chips, it's the launch cost. Putting megawatts of computing in space, the cost would be enormous because these systems weigh tens of thousands of pounds. But if those costs start to come down, then the math changes and potentially changes pretty quickly. The economics of space data centers, well, those are all about launch economics. There's one other factor that drives this conversation in two completely different directions, and that's GPU performance gains. So as GPUs become more performant, the amount of compute per pound improves dramatically. That makes the case for space. But of course, it also means that performance per watt improves dramatically as well, which makes the case for Earth. But the problem is, right now, AI computing demand far exceeds performance gains. So space is looking better over time. And this is where SpaceX becomes really fascinating. They're not just a launch provider. They have reusable rockets, they have satellite manufacturing capabilities, orbital operations, and XAI. If space compute ever becomes a thing, the company that controls launch probably controls this market. The reality is launch scale probably becomes this market's moat. This isn't just an Elon Musk issue. This is an issue that governments are very much thinking about. Europe, China, the US. They're thinking about sovereignty. They're thinking about governance, security, and the role that AI will play in defense. Space technology starts as defense, and then it becomes commercial. It's what happened with the internet, GPS. It's happening with rockets. This is a geopolitical issue more than a technical issue. The biggest threat to space data centers is not Google or Amazon, it's nuclear power. If we can start to scale our nuclear power and our grid infrastructure, then AI data centers are going to stay right here on Earth. But if we can't, then moving compute closer to the sun starts to make a lot more sense. In essence, space wins only if Earth power loses. The real question isn't whether or not we can build infrastructure in space. It's who controls the capacity and the ability to build that infrastructure in space. Because launch capacity in that world becomes the new cloud. March in early New England is not for the faint of heart. Need to make a little pit stop.
Hello, can I help you?
Yes, can I get a medium regular, please? Thank you so much.
Have a nice day.
You too, thank you. Thanks for joining my little walk and talk and talking about space data centers and Elon's role. Cheers, everybody. Talk soon.
Major Tom. Ground control to Major Tom. Take your protein pills and put your helmet on. Ground control to Major Tom.
30 seconds. 10 seconds till touch decision.
Commencing countdown, engines on.
Booster coming in hot for booster touch.
Check ignition and may God's love be with you.
Sonic boom.
Booster landing burn startup.